get things started on time. I'm glad to see your faces. It's good to see you all. I can't wait till we get to be in person again. I feel like those meetings don't come around often enough. So I want to just get started really quickly. We're going to go over a quick treasurer's report. I see that Melissa is on the call, but I know that sometimes she prefers for Marianne or I to take care of the quick treasurer's report. So I'm just going to give a quick update just to tell you, like during the month of April, we had over $4,000 in expenses, and the majority of that was due to our conference. And look at that, Marianne is sharing it on the screen, or somebody is very efficient. And we ended the month with over $27,000 in our account. So we're thankful for that and that we are in good standing. If you guys don't have any questions on that, we're just going to move right along. And Kim or Marianne, if either one of you would like to give our membership report, because this is exciting information.
Is Kim on the call?
I don't see her.
Okay. We set a goal this year for 85 members, and we are at 82 members. So we are very excited to be able to be at that point, this point in the year. Starting June 1st, we will kick off our annual summer discount for new members. If you have not been a member of SHRM and would like to join, we will be offering that. So that information will be released on June 1st. And we did agree upon the discount price, and I did not pull that up, Crystal.
It's actually $75 is what we agreed upon.
I even made that motion and I didn't remember. It's what happens when you've got a lot going on. You don't remember every detail. So it'll be for $75. So that's a pretty good deal to get you through the rest of the year. And that will also make you eligible for the other membership benefits that we have, including the certification class piece that we are now offering. You should have received an email. It's been in the newsletter a couple of times. And if anyone has any questions regarding the certification process, just let us know.
Thank you, Marianne. I am going to go ahead and go over our announcements that we sometimes do at the end of the program, but I'm going to do that now so that we give people a little bit more time to get on, so that everybody that wants to hear Miss Betsy will have gotten on the call for us for that. So last month, I do believe that I announced that we were going to have an in-person meeting in June. We have had to change the date of that, actually, because of Betsy. She doesn't even know that. But the United Way annual celebration luncheon is on June 22nd. And we were afraid that because so many HR professionals are involved with that within their organizations, that with that being the same day as our in-person meeting, we felt like that would not be the best thing for our people. So we are moving our June meeting to June 27th. That is going to be in person. It is going to be in Graves County, and it is going to start at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. We're trying to nail down where exactly that is going to be in Graves County, but we will let you know that. But it is going to be an active shooter training. And we are going to then break down into groups so that different industries can talk with law enforcement professionals about how they might need to handle that situation differently based on how their organization is, whether you're in an office setting or whether you're in a factory setting. So we're going to have some different options for you so that you can maybe get some of those questions answered for your organization. Then in July and August, we will be virtual again. And I know that Catherine is working on getting those speakers together, but we spend a lot of time making sure that the information we bring you is relevant and information that you need for what is going on in your lives. And we've got lots of new things going on in HR. So we're hoping that will be beneficial to you. All right, so we are going to just move right into our agenda for today. Catherine, I'm excited about who we've got today. She's one of my best friends, and I think that we're all going to be blessed by what she has to share with us today.
Well, I'm very excited to bring Betsy here. I have not met Betsy in person, but she comes very, very highly recommended. And I know she does a lot of really great work around Western Kentucky. And when the board was talking about a topic, we thought this is perfect. We'd seen some of the information she'd presented in other organizations and thought this is perfect for May, Mental Health Awareness Month. And we think it will be timely for your organizations, whether you have really jumped right in to provide information and resources to your employees this month, or if you are thinking about it and need to know where to start. So we're excited to have Betsy here. So Betsy Burkeen is the CEO of United Way of Western Kentucky. She's been with the organization since 2013. So she has many years of experience in that role, in addition to others. She's responsible for the overall management, development, and strengthening community relations and impact work. She leads the United Way staff, their board, and the many community volunteers to help the United Way fulfill their mission to improve education, income, and health for all of Western Kentucky citizens. So Betsy, we would love to turn it over to you.
All right. Thank you guys so much for the warm introduction. I am so just honored to be here today to speak with you. I am going to share my screen really quick and pull up this presentation. All right. Okay. So first things first, I am not a mental health professional. Let's just go ahead and establish that. I am not a mental health professional. And quite honestly, I am always leaning on you guys for HR support because my background is not in human resources either. But I do love that a non-mental health professional is going to speak to you about this topic today, because I'm very passionate about normalizing this conversation. And I think that's where we're really going to move the needle on the importance of mental health, is when we normalize that we should all be talking about it. We should all be taking it seriously. And we should just make it a normal thing, right? I think when I'm preparing for this presentation, I thought of what we know now today about the harmful effects of smoking, right? Let's think about that for a minute. And so we now know the harmful effects of smoking to ourselves and to others. But, you know, all growing up, when I walked into a restaurant, what was the first thing that you were asked as a child? Would your family like to sit in the smoking section or the non-smoking section, right? But we don't get asked that question anymore. I don't know of a restaurant that you go in and smoke cigarettes, right? But it took years and years and years to get there. And now we have entire cities that are banning smoking from their city, right? So you can't even smoke on our sidewalk. But again, it took years and years of having that conversation and providing that education. And so I think we are years and years and years away from where we should be when it comes to talking about mental health. But having conversations like this is going to help us get there. So thank you for having me today. And having the conversation. So we are the United Way of Western Kentucky. We have recently expanded our service area to 7 counties. So obviously we're working hard on providing more support outside of just McCracken County. We're definitely not near where we want to be yet, but we are trying to get there. And so we feel fortunate for that opportunity to serve these counties. So kind of my first professional experience with mental health awareness became at the beginning of our PALS program. Our PALS program is promoting academics and leadership in schools. And so we have mentoring programs in schools with little kiddos all the way up through high schoolers. A couple of years ago, our first set of PALS graduated high school. And so as we got to that middle school age, I had taken over as CEO. I had originally started with the United Way in development. And so when we got to middle school, it wasn't working well. The reading of the book with the mentor, they were just getting too old for that. It was a little childish, and we had to look at how are we going to evolve this program. And believe it or not, ACEs was something that we started to consider. And so ACEs stands for Adverse Childhood and Community Experiences. They've expanded it out to even environmental experiences now and looking into that. And that means that a child and has experienced physical, emotional, sexual abuse, physical or emotional neglect, or even just household dysfunction. So when we look at that, we're talking even divorce, domestic violence, mental illness, a relative being incarcerated, substance abuse. And now when we look at those environmental factors, we have natural disasters. So this is something that we've all been through in the past couple of years. So I think we need to take it very seriously, because none of us are immune to all of these hard things that we've gone through, especially in the last couple of years. And what we know about ACEs statistically is that those that have an ACEs score of 4 or more are more likely, doesn't mean that they're destined to, but they are more likely to lack physical activity as adults, have smoke, have alcoholism, drug use, miss work. So this is why this conversation is relevant to our HR professionals, right? Severe obesity, diabetes, depression, suicide attempts, STDs, and the list goes on. So it's relevant to us in the workplace as leaders for sure, because obviously all of these outside problems are going to impact our work life. So as I mentioned, this is when my first kind of experience with looking a little bit more into mental health and these ACEs scores began years ago, when we were seeking to evolve our PALS program to that middle school and high school level. So our regional impact manager is the one that started kind of exploring this path. And she also learned about strength finders, resiliency factors, things that we can do to help combat these adverse experiences. And that's having knowledge, support, resilience, communication, and relationship. And so we were starting to base our program on these little youth cafes at the middle and the high school level, where peers were being asked questions that would elicit these strengths among their mentors, and talking that out and having those conversations. In the midst of all that, she decided that she wanted to have a parent cafe at one of our elementary schools. The parents of our pals would come and have these conversation cards and start to have these conversations and understand what this experience was going to look like for their children. So I thought, I'll go to that and meet some of these parents. That'll be great. I get there and she decides that she wants to have the parents take an ACEs test. And so she's passing them all out, and I get a handout, and I thought, well, okay, I've actually never taken this test. I'll take this test. So I take the test and I immediately flip it over, and I was so embarrassed. And honestly, I have never felt like more of a hypocrite than I did in that moment, because my ACEs score was a 5. It was a 5 out of 10. And I put all this time and effort into this research and this investment, and how are we going to help these kids open up and talk and communicate? And all of a sudden I realized that I had not done any of the things that I was about to ask these children to do. And that was the day that I realized that ignoring your own issues, your own mental health concerns, your own adverse experiences was not going to serve you justice or anyone else around you justice. And I can speak to truth to that today. It will eventually catch up with you if you don't do the healthy things that you need to do to deal with the things that you've experienced in your life by no fault of your own. And they shouldn't be embarrassing, especially adverse childhood experiences should not be embarrassing, right? Because that was of no fault of your own. And so I'm definitely on a mission to empower people to normalize these types of conversations and realize that we all have stuff. We all have stuff, and we've all been through some really hard experiences, especially when we look at our local region and the natural disaster that has taken place here. And so we can do something about it. We can elicit good mental health. And that's what we're going to talk to about today. Now, first of all, I think before we talk about HR support to employees, we have to start with self-care. We know this, right? And this is simple stuff, but we know that you can't pour from an empty cup. We know that you can't be present and be available for your employees if you haven't first taken care of yourself. So real quickly, we're just going to go over it, even though I know it's common knowledge. The National Institute of Mental Health says these things about self-care. First of all, counseling. Let's normalize it. Please, let's just normalize it. Healthy people go to counseling. Okay. Healthy people go to counseling. I go to counseling on a consistent basis. It's a life practice that I feel like it makes me a better person. It's not something that I do that, I don't always think, oh, I think the mentality of you have to have all these problems and you're going to go sit on a couch and cry and everything is horrible. It needs to go away. Oftentimes when I'm about to go to counseling, I don't even know what we're going to talk about that day. I don't even know what we're going to talk about, but always we end up having a good quality conversation. Listen, leadership can be very alienating, right? Oftentimes we can't talk to so many people about so many things. Counseling is the place that you get permission to talk about whatever you want. And then also it's just a life coaching thing. Listen, I have a 13-year-old daughter. She is crazy a lot of the times, and I have no idea what is wrong. I have no idea some of her emotions and things that she goes through. And so a counselor can sit there and I can tell her about a situation, and she can help me understand what's going on in her brain. She can help me understand the chemical processes that she's going to. She can help me understand what is age appropriate, things that are not common knowledge to me. So counseling really should be looked at as more of a life coaching. I feel like I can respond to employees better because of things that I've been able to talk to my counselor, and because of that humility that I gain for what they may be going through, for what perceptions they may have about that situation. And then of course we know regular exercise, healthy diet, water, sleep, all the things. HALT is an acronym that I love to think of often. When you want to react to a situation, are you hungry, angry, lonely, or tired? If you're wanting to act inappropriately, most of the time, one of those things is true. You're either hungry, angry, lonely, or tired. Sabbath rest is something that I've put a lot of research into in the last year. I believe in it wholeheartedly. Even God rested on the seventh day. So if you're a believer, if the creator of all things rested for a day, then I think that we probably should too. Meditation, reading, yoga, all of those good things. And then goals and priorities. How many of us are really good at setting the goal list for the workplace for a week, but have never sat down and set a home life goal list for the week? And so that's a practice that I started doing. Only 3. If you've ever listened to Craig Groeschel's leadership podcast, he'll say only set 3 goals, even for a work day, 3, because it's attainable. It's not going to make you feel like a failure. I want to get 3 things done today. If you get more done, great, but you're at least going to get those top 3 priorities done. Same thing for home. I sat down on 10-minute practice on a Sunday night and think, okay, we're crazy busy this week. We're going to run all over the place with the kids. When I want to have intentional time with my children, what day is that going to happen? I want to show my husband appreciation. What am I going to write him a letter? Am I going to, just be intentional? Just 3 things, 3 small things, even in our personal life, can make all the difference in the world and make us just feel like. And so then we want to go down that spiral, like we're not doing enough. We're not being a good enough mom or a wife or a leader or whatever. We can go back to say, no. I had that time on Tuesday that I had decided I was going to be intentional with my children. And I did that. And I'm proud of myself for doing that. So 3 things, goals and priorities definitely help, I think, with self-care. All right. So now as we look at HR support and supporting others, strategies to improve employees' health and well-being. These were studies done by the Harvard Business Review. So again, I'm not a professional, but I did look into this for you, and I did consult the experts on these things. I do want to go through the list I've got 8 points here. But first and foremost, I want to say that I recognize that some of these just aren't attainable for your workplace. Like depending on your flow, depending on your structure, some of these aren't attainable. And that's okay, because maybe we could glean just one thing that would be helpful to take time out to think about today. Like, hey, maybe we could start doing that, or we could add in that practice. And so we'll go through these real quick, recognizing that some of them are attainable, some of them are not. All right, 1, give workers more control over how they do their work. So sometimes we can do this. A study in customer service call center, for example, found that giving employees more training so that they could take on new tasks and resolve more customer complaints on their own, improve both employees' well-being and their performance on the job. And so instead of saying, okay, I'm going to have to get a supervisor for that, they were able to do more on their own. They felt empowered. They had that leadership. And then they felt better about themselves and their jobs. And so I think anytime that we can give a little bit more leadership, we can make people feel more proud of their work. And that's a good feeling. That's a good well-being feeling. Okay, again, this is something some of us could do and some of us couldn't. Allow employees more flexibility about when and where they work. So we do this because we have a small office at the United Way. I can say, hey, I need to know when you're going to be here, and I need to make sure that we have office coverage. But if you want to come in earlier, say you want to start your day at 7 a.m. and get out a little later, or you want to come later and then end a little later, we have 5 people. We can do that as long as we have some office coverage. So we do that. Permitting varied starting and stopping times and easier trading of shifts can be very helpful in the workplace. A Fortune 500 company kind of looked into this with some IT employees, and their study resulted in physical and mental health improvements for employees, as well as reduced turnover in the business. So if we can do that, that's something to consider. Increase the stability of workers' schedules. So again, if we can, that's great. We may not be able to. A range of negative outcomes occur for workers who have this kind of erratic schedule, including poor sleep quality and greater emotional distress. So then when they're working all different kinds of hours and days and they never know when their set days off are, a study at Gap, so Gap, the clothing store, found that greater schedule stability can benefit both companies and employees. Increasing scheduling stability for workers led to 7% rise in the participating stores' median sales and a 5% increase in labor productivity. The added stability also improved sleep quality and reduced stress among employees with children. So that's pretty cool. I like that. I know I've worked all the different schedules, and I do prefer when you know your days off, when you can schedule things and have quality time with your family. 4, provide employees with opportunities to identify and solve workplace problems. I love this. I love this. One study, employees who had opportunities to problem solve together were also less likely to say they wanted to leave their jobs, a key benefit for organizations trying to retain valuable employees. I'm big on this. If you come to me with a problem, I'm most definitely going to ask you how we can fix it. And I think that's an empowering thing, a simple thing that we can do, and let people have a seat at the table and let their voice matter. 5, keep your organization adequately staffed so workloads are reasonable. Now, listen, we all want this, right? And so I get that this isn't always attainable, but I will say, if you ever wanted to go to the main guy at your company and argue this point, maybe he or she doesn't want to allow you to hire another employee, you can use some of these stats in your defense for needing more employees. So long hours and pressure to work very hard or fast can take a substantial toll on employee health and well-being. Higher rates of this can result in depression, high blood pressure, cardiovascular disease. Staffing up to spread out the demands may seem costly. It may, so there's your arguing point. But employers also pay a real price when exhausted or ill employees burn out, are absent, or quit. So we got to look at the turnover rate there too that this could produce. All right, 6. Now, this is where the United Way actually can be helpful. Encourage managers in your organization to support employees' personal needs. So listen, gone are the days that we need to have a mentality that everyone can walk into the workplace and leave their stuff at home. It's just not always realistic to switch it off with a switch. And we know that. We know that life is sometimes too overwhelming. It's too hard. I'm a very goal-oriented, driven person in the workplace. I struggle with this, so I can speak to it. I sometimes have a hard time taking that time out to spend 20 minutes talking about a non-work related issue. But the reality of the matter is, if an employee comes in and they're distressed and they're just not in it, if you could take that 20 minutes and just listen, it's going to do a couple things. One, it says, I care about you as a human, not just an employee. Right. And so that goes way farther than we could even know when it comes to an employee actually wanting to work hard for you. And then two, it just allows them that time to get it off their chest. So maybe then they can go. And most of the time, that's all we need to do. We just need to get it off our chest. We know we can't solve all the problems that day, but allowing that time to get it off their chest, then go back into their office space or go back into to whatever they have to do that day, may elicit a whole day's worth of productivity that you would not have gotten if you didn't take that 20 minutes. And so sometimes I think it's so important that we remember this. Fostering a sense of social, encouraging manager. I'm off of my promote. Okay. And let's do this one first. 7, promote your employee assistance program if you offer one. Okay. So if you have an EAP program, that's a phenomenal benefit. I have talked to CEOs before at companies that did not know if they had an EAP, thought they kind of did, but didn't know the details of it. It's so important, guys. It's so important. If you have this is such a good benefit. And I do want to encourage you to not just talk about it once a year at open enrollment. Remind your employees all the time, because you're getting so much information at open enrollment time, or maybe you just don't really feel like you need to go to a counselor or a therapist at that time. But then a couple months later, you get that email or that prompt from your HR professional that reminds you about this program, and all of a sudden it sticks. All of a sudden you think, I do need to check into that. And then not even that, I would also encourage you to use it yourself. So you could know the efficiencies of actually receiving that benefit and the challenges, because oftentimes in larger corporations, there is challenges to receive that benefit. And so hopefully if you're aware of them, even if you can't do anything about them, you could at least help other employees navigate what those challenges may be, and kind of train them on how to do that. Because if you're already struggling, and then it's really hard to get an EAP code, and it's really hard to get into a therapist oftentimes because there's just not enough of them in our region. All of that can just kind of add to it. So we don't want to add to that, right? All right. And then take steps to foster a sense of social belonging among employees. I love this one. I love it. I love it. I love it. I think it's so much better when we've created that good work culture amongst our employees. If you're a nonprofit, our board, I'm very passionate about this. Fostering a sense of social belonging doesn't have to be complex or expensive in any way, shape, or form. One study of 911 dispatchers who have highly stressful jobs and high rates of burnout and turnover had supervisors send one email a week prompting dispatchers to provide support to one another by sharing affirming stories about their work. For instance, one email shared the story of a dispatcher who was able to save the life of someone who called 911 by connecting the caller to appropriate resources. Dispatchers who received the emails encouraging them to share such stories with one another reported a significant decrease in burnout and a 50% less likely, they were 50% less likely to quit. So that's pretty cool, right? And I think even if you're not in a nonprofit, figure out your why. Figure out your why, and then allow employees to share it. Everybody has a why. Everybody has something that they feel good about in their job. And so taking the time to tap into, what do you feel good about? What makes you feel good about how you help people, or how you serve this company, or what is the thing that you do in your job that gives you fulfillment? Tap into that, and then allow your employees time to share it with one another. One of the things that I've recently done with my board, Crystal and I did this in Leadership West Kentucky. It's actually a kind of something that's done for DEI in workplaces, but I absolutely loved it. So Leadership West Kentucky was my first experience with it. This is a poem by George Ella Lyons. And so you can kind of see and glance over that real quick and read a little bit of that on the screen. But so you read this poem as a group. I did it with my board recently, and then you hand this flyer, with blanks. And so it's super easy. You don't have to be poetic to write the poem, but it's I am from, and then it tells you exactly what to fill in there. Name a specific ordinary item from your childhood home. So I did like creaking hardwood floors or something from this and from that. 2 products or objects from your past. And so you go through and you fill it out, and then you read aloud. Anybody that's comfortable. I did have 1 or 2 board members that never wanted to read us at any, I didn't call them out by name. I just let them take turns. And if they wanted to go, great. And if they didn't, that's okay too. It was hard for some. I think I had, board members that had recently lost someone, and that was hard to think about their past and their childhood. But for most, it's also very just fun to think about and enlightening to think about your childhood and be reminded of some of these things. And so what happens when you share this as a group, I think, is one, you get to know people on a deeper level, right? So these illicit conversations about childhood that you would normally bring up in the workplace. And then 2, I think this is why it's oftentimes used as a DEI exercise, because in my entire board, I have 25 board members. There wasn't one single board member's poem that I didn't hear that I couldn't find something that I related to. Right. And so no matter how different you are, no matter how different you look from others, you can see like, hey, we all had parents and grandparents that we adore. We all had things from our childhood that bring back happy memories or whatever. And so just a super cool way to provide that opportunity for individuals to get to know each other better in a workplace and to just feel good. All right, so now for resources. Unfortunately, when it comes to mental health, we're light years behind, I think, where we need to be. There just aren't enough. And so we do have resources, but most of these are in a very very targeted market. So I am going to put this in the chat. I have it on a PDF. So if you give me just a second, because I can't do more than one thing at a time, I don't think. Well, I swear I practiced this and there was a PDF upload, I thought, in the chat, but I'm not seeing it here now.
Betsy, we can always send it out. So if you want to
Okay.
send that to me or Catherine, we can get that.
Yeah. So it's just basically this, only the information that I'm going to say verbally too on a PDF that I saved for you. All right. So when we look at Four Rivers Behavioral Health, it's a private nonprofit providing comprehensive, integrative mental health, substance abuse, and developmental disability services to promote health and quality of life. They accept most private health insurance, Medicaid, Medicare, and offer sliding scale fees for those in financial need. Then we have Child Watch. So as we talk to our employees, oftentimes we're going to be exposed to just a vast variety of issues, right? So it could be to do with their kids, it could be to do with their past, it could be maybe the need for financial resources, utility assistance, food, whatever. And so Ann Bidwell is our regional impact manager. She is the best of the best when we talk about a person that will just walk through complex issues with someone and say, okay, so for this, we're going to go here. For this, I wish there was a one-stop shop for all the things, but there isn't. And problems are complex. And so if you have an employee, that you want the employee to call directly, or you want to call and talk to Ann about a situation in your workplace, that is what we're here for. She's so good at it. She's so good at it. She's the one that put all this together for you. So please know that we can be a resource in that way. So Child Watch, of course, is a nonprofit providing education, advocacy, and treatment to prevent child abuse, encourage family stability, promote healthy relationships, enhance individual well-being, and cultivate safe, nurturing communities. So they serve children 18 years old and younger who may have experienced abuse of any type or neglect. The abuse or neglect does not have to be substantiated. And then services are free to those who qualify. Lotus is a nonprofit sexual assault and violence resource center for children's advocacy center. They serve adults who have experienced sexual abuse now or in the past. So they could be, they could think they could have blocked it out and forgotten about it and decide at 40 years old, hey, this is something that I want to deal with. and they can go to Lotus. They service children who have experienced physical, sexual, emotional, and verbal abuse now or in the past, and services are free to those that qualify. Merriman House is a nonprofit agency serving men, women, and children affected by intimate partner or domestic violence. Shelter services and outreach services are available. Services are free for those who qualify. So then the next four, we have Hope Unlimited, Hope Clinic, Hope Center, and Life House Care Center, serving different areas. All the centers have free services for parents and legal caregivers of children. Some of the centers serve families until the child is a toddler. Others will serve until the child or children are 18 years of age. Centers have trained mentors, not licensed counselors, who can provide free services for parents who want to improve their child rearing skills and or may be experiencing stress in a family situation. And then, of course, Adult Protective Services investigates all known or suspected incidents of abuse, neglect, or exploitation of an adult. They also provide voluntary general adult services, preventative services aimed at assisting an adult in attaining self-sufficiency or autonomy at their highest functional level and maintaining the adult in the community. General adult services may be requested by the adult or at their direction of an adult who needs the services. So I'll let you guys send that PDF out. Sorry, I couldn't upload that in there. I'm not sure what's going on with that. All right, and then see, my clicker's not working. Okay, so to end today, you cannot have a positive attitude and a negative mind, right? We know that you cannot have a positive attitude and a negative mind. So I think we can encourage ourselves to have that positivity, and then also just do things that elicit that level of positivity in the workplace, that remind employees of the benefits. You know, I'll oftentimes in conversation talk about, you know, I'm so grateful that I get to go to my kids' stuff at my school. You know, like this workplace allows me to go to my kids' things, that this workplace allows me to alter my schedule a little bit if I need to better be there for my family. So I think being grateful for those things and then speaking that thankfulness and reminding employees of those benefits can be pretty powerful. And then share your story, right? You know, I was embarrassed about my story and didn't want anybody to know. And that wasn't right. And so I think when we can open up, oftentimes you'll hear, you know what, me too. I've gone through that too. And that can be very powerful. And then connect to your passion, of course, allowing employees to connect to their passion. I could tell you studies all day long about the benefits of that, and volunteering and having fun. And of course, I would be remiss if I didn't at least point out one. A recent study published in the Journal of Happiness Studies, who knew there was such a thing, found that people who volunteer are happier than those who do not. Every 2 years from 1996 to 2014, researchers took data from nearly 70,000 research participants about their volunteering habits, mental health, levels of stress, and daily mood. The results, not only does volunteering make us happier, it can also improve our mental health over time. So listen, we know that personally, but one of the things that I want to tell you that the United Way can be here for you is for that in the workplace too. It is such a powerful thing for teammates in the workplace to get together and to serve at a nonprofit. We have Project United that we are taking regional this year, but that's only one day a year. But I want you to hear is that doesn't matter. If you have a group of employees that want to serve and experience what that's like to do together outside of the workplace, you get to know each other better on a different level, especially large corporations. Oftentimes a lower level employee will get to talk to the CEO while they're painting a wall or whatever, and it can just be really powerful. We'll help to coordinate and plan that for you at any nonprofit at any time. And so oftentimes companies will say, you know, we have a group of 10 and we want to serve on this day and we're available from 8 to 12. We'll send that out to nonprofit agencies. We won't list your name. we'll see what all we get back. We'll compile a list and then we'll send you the options. So that way you don't have to do all that vetting and take all the calls and all the emails that may come from asking that question. And that's something that we're happy to do for you. All right. So that's what I have. Do you guys have any questions?
Thank you, Betsy. This is really good. And I wanted to just kind of open the floor up to see if any of you guys have been doing any mental health discussions with your employees this month. That was a challenge that I started our month with at the bank. And every single day that we've been open, I have sent an email out to all employees and just kind of picked a mental health topic. Maybe it was explanations about anxiety or different ways that you can deal with mental health. And I have been very surprised by the feedback that I have gotten. I've had some employees be willing to share their personal story about their struggle with mental health. And so that was what I sent out yesterday. Someone gave me a very detailed description of how that had been for them. I have gotten really good feedback. So if you have not done anything, it's not too late. There are still business days left in this month for you to take the time to talk about mental health in your workplace and encourage your folks to do the same. Encourage your managers to have that conversation. And I think just us talking about it has made people feel more comfortable. I have gotten responses back from people I never would have expected. On Friday, I sent a message out about mental health and music and how music touches us in different ways, different genres or different things. So I think that was probably, I got more feedback from the mental health and music comment than I did anybody else. And again, I was very surprised by some people that responded to that and shared their story about what music has done for them. So just find that, encourage you to really talk with your employees about that. I see Mindy has shared that they have mental health champions at work who are available 24/7 to talk to their employees. I think that's great. The EAP programs, like Betsy mentioned, a lot of us I know probably have those, but you just need to remind people. I send reminders often. I make it easy for them to find on their self-service portal, but I still have people ask about it. Just Friday, I had someone ask if we still had an EAP and how to access that. Also think her feedback was good about checking it out yourself so you see how the process works so you can better help educate your employees for what they need on that. So. And the Where I'm From was great. Martha and Jennifer are also on the call today, and they did that project with us. And I thought it was so good. I took it home and did it with my family. And so my daughters, because I wanted to see what they thought. What is their feedback about their childhood? And to my husband. And so it was very interesting for us. I have got that form as well. So if any of you want that, let me know and I can send that to you so that you can share that with your people, whoever that may be. Also wanted to announce that we have 2 open positions that we're helping to promote. The City of Paducah is looking for a diversity specialist. Details are on their website. And then finally, UACJ, Automotive Whitehall Industries, is seeking an HR specialist. And you can send your resume to Marianne or ask questions from her. She might not know a lot of the questions, but can get you to the right people for that. Does anyone else have anything they would like to discuss today? Leave it open for just a second. Betsy, thank you so much for sharing your story with us. And I hope you can see that, we might be a good resource for you. So maybe we can get somebody from your office to join our group and come be a part of our conversations that we're having. We would love to have you. All right, you guys, if there's nothing else, I hear somebody.
Oh, I was just saying thank you. I would absolutely love that. I love what you're doing, Crystal, and even the music, just bringing that up. I'll tell you, you could ask, that can then launch into what kind of music do you like? Oh my gosh, people that are into music can find such connectivity. We had that experience one time. Our office manager started talking about all the concerts she had been to, and then all of a sudden employees are connecting, engaging in that personal way that's healthy and good for the workplace. So I love it, Crystal. Keep up the good work. Thanks for all that you do. Thanks for having me today.
All right, friends, if nothing else, we will let you go and hopefully we'll see you next month on June 27th. And I did get confirmation while we were on the call. It is going to be at the UK Cooperative Extension Office in Graves County. So we'll see you then. Thanks.
Thank you, Betsy.